I'd like to kick off just by sort of laying the sort of groundwork, and if you could just sort of tell us a little bit about what exactly the global health supply chain is. But I think what's really important to remember is we're going to talk some quite dry language around contracts and supply chains and all that, but actually the real lives matter here. This is something that is very much just sort of away from the counting books and matters out in the field.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, I mean, you were right at the outset. This is a huge project. That alone, I think, makes it an important one for us to cover and to be looking into. It's a $9.5 billion indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity contract. Talk about some dry language. I'll throw some in right off the bat. But really, I mean, I think what people need to understand is that this project kind of constitutes the backbone of a lot of global health initiatives that the United States really prizes. So it's this is the supply chain that coordinates the procurement and delivery of commodities for PEPFAR, the flagship HIV/AIDS initiative, the President's Malaria Initiative, and a lot of work around maternal and child health as well. And all of those things are obviously fundamental to what the United States does in global health. They're also elevated by some really challenging high-level goals that the previous administration has set out. Achieving an AIDS-free generation, eradicating malaria, saving lives at birth. So this is the project that actually gets the commodities, the products from suppliers to patients to try to support those goals.
Right, it's like the engine in the car, basically.
Exactly, yeah.
And obviously, who runs the project?
Chemonics International, with a coalition of other organizations, is the current implementer. And I think we'll talk a little bit about how that came to be.
Yeah. Well, let's start with that. So who ran the project before, and could you just tell us a little bit about how that came to change?
Sure. So it's a bit of a trick question because there wasn't this project before. Right. This is a new project that really represents a consolidation of what the U.S. government was doing in the past. So 2 projects existed prior to this one. There was one called SCMS. And another called Deliver. And they were implemented by a consortium that included the Partnership for Supply Chain Management, which was led by John Snow Incorporated, a well-known development organization. So they implemented those 2 projects. And then in 2013, somewhere in there, maybe prior to that, USAID decided that they wanted to do things a little bit differently to consolidate the work that they had done across these 2 other projects, bring all of that together. And so they rebid the project with a slightly different format, and Chemonics was successful in winning that award.
What was the goals of USAID in sort of consolidating like that?
Well, I think it sort of gets to what I was alluding to before, which was the goals around U.S. global health initiatives had changed, and they were trying to recognize that in the construction of how they were supporting those goals. So, achieving an AIDS-free generation is incredibly ambitious. Eradicating malaria is incredibly ambitious. Some of the goals around saving lives at birth are really difficult. So I think there was a sense, and I'm saying this based on what I've read, which is kind of transcripts of USAID meetings that they held with potential bidders. There was a sense that they kind of needed to ramp up the supply chain to build something much more integrated. And actually, let me read this because I think this is helpful. This is from an industry day that USAID held in 2013, and one USAID official said, "The purpose of this suite of awards is not simply to continue the vital work currently performed under SCMS and Deliver, but to transform the industry and the environment of the international health community to such an extent that in 5 or 8 years, we will not have a need for another such set of awards."
Right.
So, I mean,
there's a huge stake.
The stakes are huge, and what they were envisioning, in my understanding, was really fundamentally transforming global health supply chains in developing countries where USAID operates.
So what happened during the process that Chemonics eventually won?
So they put a ton of work into preparation for this proposal. You can read about that. And it was a surprise. I mean, they effectively unseated a coalition of organizations that had been doing this work for years and had really sort of built a lot of their practice around this global health supply chain work. So Chemonics won the award. It sort of sent some ripples throughout the U.S. development contracting industry. And it initiated a round of award protests, which certainly our industry is not unfamiliar with. This happens a lot, but there was sort of the stakes were high in this one.